Welcome, everybody, to our series of short, sharp 10-minute Pearl Expedition webinars. We're joined by General Manager and Head of Sustainability, Mick Fogg. Welcome, Mick.
Thanks, Craig. It's always a pleasure to chat destinations with you, mate.
Thank you. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking a deep dive into some of the incredible destinations that your clients will be able to visit on the Paspaley Pearl. And we won't run through all the facts and figures of the vessel itself. We'll mention its capabilities during the presentation. But the key things to remember is only 30 guests as a maximum. And it's 50 metres in length, which means it's the boutique size, which opens up a whole new plethora of destinations that we can access. And importantly, a 4-member expedition team. So you'll be guided the whole way through your expedition by experts on board, and that'll enable your guests to get so much more out of the expedition. We'll head straight into it, Mick, and I think you're going to kick us off with one of your favourite destinations, right?
Absolutely, Craig. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. And I thought we'd start talking Kimberley because it's a destination hard to go past. And as you've mentioned, what's really interesting about Paspaley Pearl is the boutique size, which allows us to really get into the Kimberley, into many more areas than what most people would be used to. So, a couple of facts to start, I guess, and we'll talk about the Kimberley. And most people aren't aware, but, the whole entire land region is now under exclusive access native title. So that means that our traditional owners controlling all landing areas. And they've listed 68 approved visitor sites along that coast. Now, our current large expedition fleet, so those over 80 passengers, are limited to only visiting probably around about 25% of them. But when they do their voyages, they're probably only just touching 10 at most. So that means that 75% of them are only accessible by this boutique size of vessel where Paspaley sits in. So the Pearl sits in beautifully in this boutique size class. And what that means is we have more destinations to choose from. We can provide more experiences and more time. And I think time's the critical thing. You're visiting an ancient landscape, the timeless Kimberley, as we love to call it. And you need time to experience that. You need to not feel like you're being rushed from one destination to the other. And so we're able to explore deeper, spend more time. And as you alluded to, you're going to have more interaction with your naturalists. We've got 1 to 7.5 as our ratio, which is unheard of in the industry. So it allows us and our guests to interact more with them, spend more time, and get a greater immersive experience out of it.
Amazing.
So when we look at our... Sorry, Matt.
Sorry to interrupt, but also on that timing thing, having, obviously it's very easy to have all 30 guests off the vessel at the same time, isn't it? So you're not, going and on that last picture we saw the incredible Montgomery Reef, you're not out there for a certain period and then back on the ship so the next lot of guests can go out there and experience it. You can spend the time, even at those major sites that everybody visits, we're going to have an incredibly, immersive experience at them.
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. And you're really making a very valuable point there because everyone's having the exact same experience. So everyone's out for the same period of time. You're not splitting into groups where half of you are seeing half the experience and then the other half are seeing the other half of the experience, if that makes sense without getting too convoluted. But it allows you to all have that same experience and discuss that at the end of the day and reflect on it and have that more time to be able to do it. And I think that's a real key factor for it. So as you mentioned, glad you mentioned that for me, mate. So when we look at some of the destinations we've got, there's so many to choose from along that Kimberley coast. 1,200 kilometres of coastline and all those islands to choose from. There's so many places you can visit, and that's the key with it all. So we'll get to see some of those new, unique tidal phenomenon, places like Whirlpool Pass. And this image here, it looks a lot like Montgomery Reef, but it's actually not. It's in the Sunday Island group. It's a place called Talon Island. But because the tide ranges are so extreme throughout the area, there's other places you can see these tidal phenomena. And as areas like Montgomery Reef, which is one of my favourite, get more and more people visiting them, we can find other places to go to have the same experience. We can do smaller destinations, place like Silica Beach, where we can do beautiful evening cocktails ashore, have our briefings ashore, things like that, because we're doing that relaxed atmosphere. So we don't need to have formal structure, and each day will work around the expedition program. Places like the Adeline Islands, which are really quite unique, they bring to life that pearling history, which obviously intertwines with Paspaley as well. But you've got grave sites of some of the first pearl divers there on Adeline Island. And pearling dates back to that area to about 1861, with the hard hat Japanese divers, which some of these grave sites commemorate, going back to the 1880s. So a nice bit of history to add into a Kimberley voyage. And as you mentioned, it's more about time, more rock art sites. You've got more ability to visit different waterfalls, things like King's Cascades. You go through different mangrove systems because there's plenty of them. And those different experiences, having an opportunity to experience some of the freshwater habitats that we're able to do with a group of 30 guests. So up into areas like the Roe River, up into areas like King's Cascades, where you can get that great relaxing feel from that cool fresh water from that lovely Kimberley heat. That includes other areas like Ruby Falls as well. So beautiful areas to experience. And some of the things people don't think about with the Kimberley is you've got little rainforest pockets that you can walk through. Great experiences to see that different side of the Kimberley. I mean, everyone loves the rocks and the crocs, but it's got so many other habitats available for us to explore because we only have 30 guests.
And speaking, Mick,
sorry, mate.
Sorry, Mick. Speaking of swimming, and we saw the freshwater swimming holes and waterfalls and things there. Back a few slides ago, I didn't want to interrupt because I was engrossed as always, but there was a guy walking along Silica Beach there. Are there some areas that'll be opened up to us where it is possible to swim in the ocean, or is it all pretty dangerous up there?
Well, look, here's the question for you. There's places like Silica Beach are as dangerous to swim as Cable Beach. So how many people swim on Cable Beach all the time? The advantage that we have is small numbers, and in place like Silica Beach, the water is crystal clear. You choose your tides. It's very shallow for a long distance out, and there's good areas for viewing up on either headlands. So we can be looking into the water for anything up to 500 metres from where the guests actually are. And we don't ask them to go out from anything above sort of, chest deep water and things like that. So it's a thing that can be done. Obviously, everything has to be risk assessed on the day, and we look at the water conditions and when they're ideal, lesser tidal movement, crystal clear waters. Then we have that opportunity in front of us. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, mate.
No worries. So yeah, the helicopter flights, we can do those as well. We'll be offering those through a couple of companies. And then one of the great experiences, I think, is floating over the top of Montgomery Reef. And to be able to do that, just drifting over as that tide comes in. We're all used to going to Montgomery Reef to see the outgoing tide. But when you do the incoming tide and the first clear waters move over the top of that reef, you can just drift in. It's about 2.5 nautical miles. And you end up drifting in with that incoming water. Turtles are following you in. You get the sharks coming in. And then you end up right in the middle of the Montgomery Islands, and you get to experience the amazing rush of that incoming water. When you see the volume of water that's coming in there, and it's great just to park the boats up against the sandbank and then just get picked up with it and drifted along with that incoming water. So it's kind of like the reverse phenomenon, but one that's really unique to the Kimberley because of the tidal plains. It was made famous by Malcolm Douglas when he used to do all of his shots about how he'd get his boat stuck, and he had to race with the tide. You'd see him running along the sand to try and catch up to his boat. Most of that was shot in areas like this, and it's great to go back to those places and have people experience that. To see that tide running in, and before you know it, you've got several meters of water underneath you, and you're passing out through those islands, which is fantastic from an expedition perspective. And with 30 odd guests, we can do some pretty unique experiences. So we, I think it was 20 something years ago, and at a previous couple of companies I worked for, we discovered a little set of caves on Biggie Island, and now with our 30 guests, we can do a full lunch in there, and that's what we'll do. Full table service in lunch. It's a really amazing experience. And of course, the other thing we're able to offer is the good old fishing, so the tide to table experience. So in the Kimberley, we'll have our fishing license. We'll have a dedicated fishing boat, and that'll be going out each day with whoever guests wish to go out fishing. And whilst we'll encourage catch and release and obviously sustainable practices, should someone want to bring their catch home, our chefs will be happy to prepare that for the evening meal, and we'll do that lovely tide to table experience. And
Brilliant.
then, of course, our link with Paspaley allows us to do exclusive accesses, particularly in Curry Bay and around their pearl farms. So during harvest season, we'll have the opportunity to drop in on some of the farms and actually watch it all going live. And then other times we'll be going to their base at Curry Bay and looking at how they operate there. So opens another angle to the Kimberley as well. But that thing you came back to, Craig, it is that more time for me. It's just sharing experiences with clientele, being able to not rush. I think some of my most enjoyable moments have been just sitting with guests and pondering Aboriginal history, culture, European history, the impacts of the Kimberley, the even the geology, looking at the rocks and understanding those formations, and you're just not rushed. And I think that is the critical element to it. And we can also take advantage of those, unexpected encounters. And with your team of naturalists on board, allows you to get more knowledge, more understanding of those unique areas and that cultural past. And it is so deep. We're talking 60,000 plus years in the Kimberley. And again, we'll continue to work with our traditional owners and really bring that more to life in the areas we're going to go and visit. So our timeless Kimberley voyages, we offer in 10 nights, Kununurra to Broome or Broome to Kununurra. And we've got one voyage on the 20th of August this year, and then we're heading out to next year where we'll run through to the 24th of April through to the 16th of September. And so that brings us to a close of our Kimberley voyages. Great.
It was brilliant, Mick. Thank you. You really never meet anybody that does a Kimberley trip and it stays with them. They all rate it as one of the greatest, highlights of their travelling. So to be able to do it on a beautiful boutique vessel like the Paspaley Pearl and with a team of experts like yourself, it's an incredible experience that awaits. So thanks for sharing your insights.
My pleasure, Craig.